All right, we are live for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, man, excited to be back. Looking forward to connecting, sharing with you some things that caught my attention, but more importantly, some things worth paying attention to. And so I apologize for the hiccups. Once again, those are things that happen behind the scenes where technology just happens to fail on you at the last minute. But nevertheless, we're here, we're back, and I'm looking forward to connecting, man. So as always, want to give it a second before I begin getting into some very important headlines. And so right now, I guess the biggest, focus of the day is FOMC meeting. What will Powell do? Will he cut? Will he pause continually or whatever? I mean, all those things are important. But then again, when we know where we're at in this current monetary experimentation, it's more so worth paying attention to as to how they will kick the can or move the goalpost. And the most likely scenario for them of moving the goalpost will be to adjust or to change their own measurements so that they can keep this narrative going. And that has a lot to do with Goldman Sachs' recent analysis or forecast as to what they believe the Fed will be forced to do due to running extreme deficits, the debt, and of course, sticky inflation. So ultimately, changing the CPI figures is what it's going to boil down to. So interesting headline I'm going to share with you, as well as a couple other things developing. And everything seems to be right on course in reference to the rebranding of the monetary system. We got Blackrock coming out looking to tokenize the capital markets and all assets of all kinds. And they're putting their money where their actions are leading them to. And so we're going to talk about that, as well as some things happening in the geopolitical front. We have a lot of what appears to be deliberate attacks on those who are for freedom and liberty and things of that nature. And so we're going to dive deep, man. But anyway, welcome to the live stream. I apologize for the hiccups that occurred a moment ago. Things beyond my control. But then again, just hit reboot and try to get it going again, man. So feel free real quick to let me know where you're watching from. Would love to acknowledge your presence, welcome you to the community, and more importantly, keeping you guys plugged in. And as always, the goal is to give you some good news up front, which happens to come from the Word of God in and of itself. Share with you some opportunities, good ways of protecting and preserving yourself. Get into the headlines as well as the market activity, covering everything from Wall Street all the way to Main Street and a little bit of everything in between. So welcome, everybody. All right, man. As more people get in here, we will keep this party going right away. Want to be short, concise, straight to the point, give you value, and get you started on your day this morning. And as always, I want to get started, man. Let me close some windows here. Let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if everything is moving smoothly on the back end. And if you haven't, make sure you guys click that thumbs up button. Make sure you click the bell notification so you are notified. And definitely stick around, follow along. I'm trying to do more short commentary, giving more analysis. And so definitely check out the quick little RT quick takes I share during the afternoons. A good way of digesting interesting story from an alternative perspective. And to help the channel, please share these things so more people can find out what's going on. Because the only way, we can, I guess, reach as many people as possible before stuff becomes obvious is to support and to share, content from your favorite content creators, whoever they may be. That's a good way of supporting with your actions, even if you're not doing it monetarily or anything else. So definitely consider that. And also, I want to make sure you guys stay plugged in. Follow RTD on the Telegram, especially. That's where articles go up throughout the day from the community directly. So if you are a part of the community, you want your voice to be heard, please share it in the Telegram community, as well as all these other mediums here. The links in the description for the social media tab. You'll be able to get plugged in there throughout the day. So, all right, let's get into the good news, man. Let's not waste any time. Let's start the day off with some good news, which is what I always do. Hopefully you guys do the same. And so this is from March 20. This says, let him lead. Who is him? The Lord himself. And it says here, a person's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand their own way? That's from Proverbs 20:24, the NIV version. And it says here, the Father wants you to come to the place where all that truly matters to you is his will, and you're no longer fearful about the unknown. It says, rather you trust him so deeply and remain in such close fellowship with him that you're confident he won't allow you to stray from his special path for your life. It says, there's no doubt that God has great plans for you, but the question before you are, can you let go of control and allow the Father to work through you? Are you willing to accept whatever comes from his hand each day in faith? It says, don't miss God's blessings because you're fearful about giving up control. You may think, if I let go, everything will fall apart. But this is evidence of your limited understanding. It's possible that everything is going to pieces because you refuse to loosen your grasp. It says, friend, the Father promises to strengthen and uphold you. That's out of Isaiah 41:10. So believe him, seek his will, let go of your fear, and allow him to instruct you step by step. Then a closing prayer is, Lord, please help me let go. I want to rest in you and trust you more. Amen. 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 All right, my good people. That's the good news for this morning, man. Straight out of Proverbs, man. Is your trust? Can you put it all in his hands 100% and not have any leftover for yourself? Literally, because you trust it all to him. That's kind of a little bit what I got from that. And so, of course, in my own life, just a little side rant in my own life, there's all types of avenues that I have to literally put in his hands daily, from being a parent, a husband, trying to run operations, trying to be the best, child of God I can be. I can't do it all on my own strength. So literally, Lord, help me be everything you created me to be. That's kind of like my prayer for myself. Hopefully you guys can resonate with that and feel that. And that's real news to me, man. All right. Let's get into some opportunities, man. I want to make sure I keep my people plugged into what's available for them. And of course, I'm excited today that this video and the channel, man. I'm very excited to be able to connect and partner with great people that really care and can offer solutions to problems. And so, Colonial Metals Group is helping be one of the sponsors, as well as For Patriots. And so, just excited, man, to be able to give the community opportunities. And so all I can do is just lead you to the water. Can't make you drink it. But then again, if I give you somewhere to go to get some answers, get some solutions, hopefully you guys taking advantage of it. So we're going to jump right into that, man. It's just great to be able to offer some solutions for people, man. All right. As always, forpatriots.com/RTD. Excited as always, man, to be able to present people with the opportunity of being able to protect and get their calorie game up, as well as energy game up, and as well as all the utensils you might need to, for the stuff hits the fan type moments. So as you guys can see on this page here, a variety of items on this deal page here, but I want to direct people more so towards the food side of things. Like right now, we're hearing a lot of warnings about all types of things. Make sure you got your calorie reserves on the shelf somewhere locked away as a food insurance policy that you hopefully never have to touch, but you'll have it. So here you got the 1-year survival food kit, which is a good way to just lock it down for quite some time. Or what I want to encourage people, what I've done for family and friends, get a hold of these 72-hour little food kits here. These 72-hour food kits go a long way, and they're a good way to just have something on deck just in case. So that's a good option for my people who want to, basically protect themselves. And also make sure you guys got some energy. Everybody should have a gas and solar generator for that just in case moment. But then again, For Patriots offer their Patriot Power solar generator, which is a great way to basically store a little energy just in case you need it, in case the lights go out. So if you guys are interested, forpatriots.com/RTD, it'll take you to the emergency deal page. Link is in the description. Definitely check them out. And also, it's going to be very interesting, man. So this is what I'm excited to do. This is what I'm really excited for right here. So here we got the colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD page. And this is my latest partner here. And the Colonials Metals Group is allowing people to be able to take their assets out of the legacy system, put it into a self-directed, self-custody IRA program. So I've had people in the past ask me, Mike, how can I get my stuff out, whatever. And I had a couple of people that I was leaning towards, but when the Colonials Metals Group, reached out to me and we decided to collaborate on this, I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity for those who are trapped in the system, might need solutions or options on how to extract what they've worked hard for and put it into their own possession. So as you guys can see on the page here, this is the link right here. So colonialsmetals.com/RTD, or you can call and speak with one of their advisors and just get some information. The number is 888-521-2448. I would recommend you guys call them today. In worst case scenario, check the link out in the description and see if this is something for you. Simply enter your name, your information, someone will reach out to you, and you can actually speak with an expert on how to get out of the legacy system and get into your own personal financial system, basically being your own bank in a sense. And so if you guys are interested, information is in the description as well as that number. Here's just a great landing page where you can get more information as to what they do and just how they're helping this channel here. So I'm appreciative of them, and hopefully you guys take advantage of the opportunity. Links in the description, as you guys can see right beneath me. Good opportunity for you guys to take advantage of. So colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. And then lastly here, want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to get some alternative thinking, out of the box thinking. So the crisis reports, you guys can go, links in the description here, rethinkingthedollar.com/CR or rtdreports.com. Get these free downloads here, and you'll also be a part of my newsletter list. And I'll be able to contact you and share information with you on a personal note. But links here cover a variety of subject matters. Definitely plug in, and you will not be disappointed. And you will definitely get some things that you won't hear from the mainstream media. So if you're interested, click the link, rethinkingthedollar.com/CR or rtdreports.com. All right. So there we got just some things there. Hopefully you guys take advantage of it, man. Resources to actually have some options in this current chaotic world. And based upon what I'm going to share today, you're definitely going to need some if you don't have them already. And so I want to cover the markets real quick, just look at some figures, see what's going on. And of course, FOMC meeting, the talk out there in the X world or X.com world, Twitter world is, what is Powell going to say today? I'm like, what do you expect he's going to say? It doesn't matter whether it's good news or bad news. The markets are going to be somewhat favorable because they have to continue to keep the narrative of a soft landing, a smooth recovery, or whatever narrative they're going to give us. But then again, they'll do one thing while the markets in general will respond in a different way. The under markets. And under markets, what I mean, under markets means the metal sector. All right, so real quick, let's dive into some things here. Let me get rid of this off my screen here. So here we got just some metals activity. So far, so good. Very positive, very in the green, which is a good thing. We got gold at 2160. Gold at 2160. Where's the slam down? Not much of a slam down today. Something's going on here. Something's going on. 2162. So yeah, this boy right here, of course, the backbone of the monetary system happens to be gold. We know that. And so we got silver right now, 2448, 2440. 24.89. There was somewhat of a got up to $25 and it dropped down to a low of 24.92, and then it's back up to 24.97. So that $25 range clearly might be the bankers' resistance level, where they don't want to see that thing break out even more. Okay. And then, of course, we got what we got. We got platinum, palladium, all in the green, 897, 982. Okay, doing well. Wealth preservation in its finest. And then look, we got the bubbles market. The crypto bubbles are also in the green. Man, it must be a good day. 64,000 for Bitcoin. It is going back up. Not surprising whatsoever. And then we got Ethereum also slagging behind, but it probably will go up as well. And all the other speculative assets out there that's being brought into existence as BlackRock looks to take us towards a tokenized world. What a coincidence. Anyway, as far as the speculative side of things, what I'm considering doing, as I mentioned before, I've been in the digital asset space for quite some time now on the back burner, just doing it more so as a speculative opportunity because I realize that's where the capital will flow. That's where they want it to flow. So, the best way to, I guess, take advantage of these opportunities is to front run opportunities in that space. So I'm probably going to get back into my late nights. Not sure how it'll look, but I want to actually, as I educate myself on the back end, exploring a lot of these projects, do a little asset purchasing on the short end, because I do believe at some point when this monetary spigot come back on, cryptos will race harder, faster, and higher than metals will. And so I want to be on that trade. So I'm going to actually probably do some, asset purchases online, sharing with you my research and my education in that space there. So if you guys are interested, definitely join me out. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it, but this sector does interest me a lot. So I'm going to definitely share it with you guys, and might be an opportunity for some to follow along if you're in this space. But then again, it's just another way of diversifying your portfolio, in my opinion. So I'm going to look to do that. All right. So lastly here, let's take a look at the equities market and see what's going on. And so as of now, overall, a lot of green. So a lot of people must be expecting something favorable. Or, as always, good news is bad news, and bad news is good news when you're dealing with a monetary restructuring. But Microsoft is a little neutral. Apple is down. Nvidia is down. The financial sector is doing quite well. Let me move myself out the way here. And then the banks are, JP Morgan is doing quite well as well. So it's for the most part, it's neutral. It's neutral out there. A lot of greens, a lot of red, a lot of market activity just happening right now. So it's a neutral thing going on. But what I want to get into right away is this particular piece from investing.com. It says, predict how the stock market will react. to today's Fed rate decision, and Powell comments using only one word. And so it's interesting to see how people responded. And so somebody says 1% sell off. Somebody says volatility. Says message will be the same, but in a more hawkish tone. And then somebody responded with Bitcoin. Let me see. Let me get more replies here. It says markets have been making me depressed. Can they please give us a break, and give some rate cuts? So Daniel wants rate cuts because he wants he wants the trajectory to trend higher again. Michael says pops, and the dividend there says badly. It says bullish, boys will be boys, stonk will be stonks, indecision, yada yada yada. So I thought this was a good way to start things off, because while we're being directed to look at the FOMC meeting and what Powell's going to say, the world unfortunately hinges on the words that come out of one individual's mouth based upon the decisions made by 12 unelected individuals in DC to sit around a big round table and direct the future of the Federal Reserve System, which happens to be linked to the US dollar. And so whether it's dovish, hawkish, whether it's cuts or not, the problem will be the fact that inflation or the consumer price increases is not easing the way that they wanted it to, based upon their current policies of this QT measure and them letting their balance sheet dwindle down slightly but surely. And so QT is ineffective. Therefore, they're going to have to do something in between. And this gets into the primary subject of today. And this has to do with Goldman Sachs' call that ultimately the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're damned if they do and doomed if they don't. So no matter what, they're going to have to kick or move the goalposts on how they measure their own CPI targets, because things are not adding up. So I'm going to run through this real quick, share my 2 cents on it, and then get into some other stories. But ultimately, stuff like this just reinforces the fact that no matter what they do, your financial security is in great danger. Because if it's all solely based on a fiat note that is the primary weapon of choice from the Western Hemisphere, then whether they move the goalposts as far as adjusting the CPI figures or keeping it the same, that still leads to debasement on an annual basis, according to their figures, which we know are understated. We know their figures are false. And so the compounding effect of currency debasement will only get worse. And it's just more of a reminder of the importance of getting your weight up from a monetary standpoint. And then, as I mentioned before, I got into this little rant here about taking advantage of financial opportunities is where the capital will flow, where all these fictitious digital and paper units will flow first. They want it to flow into digital assets. They want it to flow into crypto because that gives them more time. And so, as I always say, the crypto space is the escape valve for hyperinflationary pressures, which have to come. Okay. So let me get into some headlines here, man. So this is a very lengthy article, very juicy. I would encourage you to take time to skim through it for yourself so you can stay up to date on what's going on. But Zero Head did a good job of putting this together. I'm going to read through it. It says 2 years ago, they first said that it's only a matter of time before the Fed admits it is unable to resolve the so-called last mile of inflation. The last mile, which is literally the spike from an all-time 40-year high of 9.6 down to what is about 3%, give or take, whatever you want to count, whether it be the core, whether it be PCE, whether it be whatever inflation measure they give us. And it says inflation, and that as a result, the old inflation target of 2% is no longer viable. So they know they can't get it back to 2 because what they've done to this point hasn't worked. And so with all this external pressure of the need to cut, economists forecasting a cut by June, a minimum of 3 cuts, they're having problems doing that. So what does that mean? They got to now figure out how they can keep things afloat and maneuver around the fact that they are not in a position to cut because technically speaking, there's not enough pain in the system really for them to cut. And they'll be cutting prematurely into a market that don't really require it. So what are they going to do? Goldman Sachs thinks they're going to move the goalposts. And so here, let me keep it moving. It says, then 1 year ago, we currently said that while everyone was paying attention elsewhere, the inflation target had already been hiked to 2.8% on the way to even more increases. So this is just them backtracking their analysis throughout the last year. And then it says here, and while the Fed still pretends it can one day lower inflation to 2%, even as it prepares to cut rates as soon as June, moments ago, Goldman published a note from its economics team, which had to be ballsy to finally call a spade, and concluded that as part of this Fed's next big debate, the Fed's next big debate, example is for them to rethink the neutral rate. And so as I'm reading this, I'm learning a lot of key terminologies that I haven't been focused on. So bear with me on this educational journey here, but it makes sense at the end. It says both the neutral and terminal rate, a polite euphemism for the inflation target, as much higher than conventional wisdom believes, and that as a result, Goldman is penciling in a terminal rate of 3.25 and 3.5 this cycle, 100 basis points above the peak reached the last cycle. So what they're saying is this rethinking the neutral rate is ultimately the inflation rate, which it happens to be the neutral and the terminal rate. So neutral meaning, where their stated mark is and where all their measurements are able to actually get it down towards. They're saying they're going to end up having to settle at around 3.25 or 3.5 percentage points. And that's referring to the CPI target rate moving forward, whether stated directly or unstated based upon the actions that they currently have done and what they will have to do in the future. And so more here, it says, here's more from the full Goldman note, but below are excerpts from the fragment. It says, this is Goldman speaking, we argued last cycle that the long-run neutral rate was not as low as widely thought, perhaps closer to 3 to 3.5 in normal terms than a 2 and 2.5. Since we have argued this cycle that the short-run neutral rate could be higher still because the fiscal deficits is much larger than usual. In fact, estimates of the elasticity of the neutral rate to the deficit suggest that the wider deficit might boost the short-term neutral rate by 1 and 1.5%. So basically, because the government deficits are so large and they're growing continuously, we got the government borrowing I think 50 to 70-ish billion weekly. And so everyone talks about this, every quarter they're borrowing close to $1 trillion. So as of right now, if we get through this year at the current rate, they're looking at borrowing $4 trillion, which is basically saying the government's borrowed more than they can ever repay back. That makes it hard for the government to continue to borrow, and there not be inflationary pressures out there. So what they're saying is they're going to eventually have to move the target because there's more currency being brought into circulation. So it'll be hard to go back to 2% when the government's running deficits so large, basically expanding the monetary base through the debt structure, the way our monetary system is set up. So they can't go back to 2%. So the deficit is making it hard for them to go back to 2%. And then real quick here, just a little visual aid here. It says distant forward interest rates, a market-based approximation of the neutral rate, have risen sharply since the pre-pandemic years to around 4% in the normal nominal terms. So ever since they shut the economy down and juiced the markets with about $6 to $7 trillion, it has basically made it very difficult for the CPI figures to trend back down to 2% because the monetary base has become so large. So unintended consequences of a failed monetary experiment. And a couple more here. It says, over the coming year, Fed officials are likely to debate whether the neutral rate is still as low as they assumed last cycle, as the dot plot implies. Translation: raising neutral rate estimate is also the first step to admitting that the traditional 2% inflation target is higher than the previously expected. And once the Fed officials crosses that particular Rubicon, all bets are off. And then it goes on to talk about how literally if that happens, because inflation is sticky, as we can see here, their inflation targets, if it's inflation over the last decade has supposedly been 2%, the expansion of the monetary base took it up well beyond what it's capable of going back down to. They're now cruising along the 3 to 3.5 rate. And they're having problems bringing it back down. So what is that going to look like in the end? More money, more debt deficits, more expansion of the monetary base. They can't keep the lie up that they can go back to 2%. So they're going to have to make some tough decisions. And if they basically tell the world that they can't get back to 2%, they need to keep it at 3.5, then what do you think is going to happen? The world will realize that the debt is beyond sustainable. There's no point of return. And then therefore more pressures on getting rid of U.S. treasuries. Who will want U.S. liabilities, when they are running, it's even hard to even lie about where their inflation targets can be. So therefore, all these numbers that they're working with, according to their own measures, are understated. And so the real CPI figures, we know, depending on where you live at, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's not going down. So what does all that mean? If they move the goalpost from their ideal target of 2%, which is already a 2% depreciation of your currency yearly, if they go to 3.5, that's mean that literally 3.5% of less currency or less purchasing power you'll have. So ultimately, what this graph here that I have behind my head signifies that this is what compounded inflation has looked like over time. As the deficits increase, the debt explodes, more units are in circulation. That means the price you see on items and the cost for your everyday lives has to trickle up, nominally speaking, in number terms. Therefore, you get less bang for your buck. And they're about to increase that even more. So literally, as I always said, I think Biden will be the last administration under this current monetary paradigm. It kind of has to be that way, because by the time all this plays out after this election, there won't be much confidence left in U.S. liabilities, aka treasuries and our bonds. Therefore, the currency is also a derivative of the debt. So it's like we're screwed. So expect even more debasement moving forward. And this is what people should be paying attention to, not whether or not they're cut or not, whatever. Anyway, it go. We're in big trouble, people. So anyway, that's just a little rant, giving you some inside information as to what people should pay attention to, regardless of what the FOMC does. That's not their biggest problem. The biggest problem is keeping confidence globally in U.S. deficits and liabilities. So, all right, let's keep it moving. I want to share with you something that should matter to everybody. And I want to continue to talk about this because it's the anchor. It's the foundation of the monetary system, whether or not, we'll hear about it from the mainstream news here or not. But just look at what the central banks have been doing and what they're doing. So this is, as we're talking about the Fed's inability to keep, CPI inflation targets, where they would like it to be. Every other central bank is also in the same boat. Okay. And so here we have an interesting visual aid from a bar chart that came out yesterday. And it says central banks around the world are building gold positions at the fastest pace in at least the last half century. And this graph here tells it all. So we got central banks hoarding gold at the fastest pace in modern times. So just looking at this blue here. So basically this started after the last great financial crisis, 0809 time frame. And so ever since then, central banks around the world have been basically repositioning themselves in the very same thing that Nixon decided to close, which was a gold window in 1971. So this goes back to 1971. And so since the markets became debt-based, paper-based, computerized, gold has been insignificant in the central bank's coffers because they were able to just allow the governments to run deficits in a sense or create debt. They monetize the debt, and gold was a barbarous relic. So they were able to sell their gold and not really worry about it. But after the great financial crisis, along with this light blue line of the price of gold, as the central banks have been accumulating, is it any coincidence that the actual dollar price has been increasing as well? Nowhere near where it will end up. But this graph here lets us know how central bankers are not necessarily protecting themselves, but they're trying to get back to some form of sound stability and reestablish trust amongst themselves and the banker community. And they're doing it with physical gold. And so if they're running the gold, hopefully, my people here, you realize the importance of gold and silver as just the basis to make sure that you got some of that as a protection hedge against government deficits, against central bank monetary manipulation, and as well as commercial bank fractional reserve lending, which has allowed the monetary base to expand as well. So this is the antidote to the problems created by the powers that be, the money trust, the big boys, the bankers, the banks, is what we want to call it. So yeah, I'm going to continue to harp and to remind people that this is the case. Okay, and then on another note, let me share something with you. I want to play something that takes us into the next financial order. That's a good way of putting it. The next financial order. Let me share a video with you real quick because this is some interesting developments here. And I'm going to play this and then we're going to talk about this because this is where they want to take the world. And this is where things are currently playing out.
And we believe it's so important to be anticipating the next move. I would also say on the beginnings of a ETF Bitcoin, we believe ETFs are a technology no different than Bitcoin was a technology for asset storage. We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets.
Tokenization
and that
of
means
financial assets.
Every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, QSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification.
Your own
We
ID.
can rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we can customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would.
All right, enough of that. As you guys can see that there's a lot of one ledger, one ID, one tokenization, one this, one that. Who's going to control that one? Oh, let me guess, Blackrock. And then who's really helping push and escalate this oneness that the world's racing to? Oh, we're going to get into that too. So here you go. This is just what's happening, man. Like, pay attention to what they're doing behind the scenes. Biggest Bitcoin breaking ever. It says trillions about to enter the crypto market. BlackRock just filed with the SEC to launch tokenization fund. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says the next step in the tokenization of the financial assets, and that means every stock and every bond. So literally, while the old system is crumbling, the Fed's trying to buy time by making it appear as if they can save things, but they ultimately know the house of cards is going to come down. Larry Fink is working behind the scene and set the infrastructure to make sure that all bonds and stocks are on a single ledger being controlled by the same people who run in the system now. And in order to interact with that particular ledger and financial system that they're setting up, you're going to have a digital ID, meaning that they'll know who gets in, who buys, who sells, who trades. And as long as you're in good standing with the system, you'll be able to interact with the financial system. But if you happen to be a dissident or you be someone who don't want to participate and be a good boy, they'll basically just block you from participating in the new financial order that they're setting up. But you shouldn't be surprised because that's the whole point of this digital ledger, digital asset transformation we're going through. It was all heading in this direction. And the fact that majority of people, maxis, are so convinced that Bitcoin can save them from this, that they don't see that this was all a setup. Satoshi set us up. But anyway, it's fun to talk about these things because this is what they're building out. BlackRock begins asset tokenization with launch of digital liquidity funds. So I'm going to give you some details here. It says, according to the filing, BlackRock created the fund in 2023, but has yet to launch it. Form D is used to obtain various exemptions, as BlackRock indicated that it's seeking an exemption under the Investment Company Act section, which exempts it from certain SEC regulations. It says the fund will have a $100,000 minimum investment and be offered by Securitize, a U.S. digital securities firm, which will also conduct the sale of the tokens. So it's a fund that only people who can have 100,000 can get in up front. And so you will be issued tokens. And so there'll be 100 total tokens to participate in this particular fund here. It says the form shows that 525 in sales commission indicates the size of the fund as indefinite. It says here the fund will be tokenized on the Ethereum blockchain, which with an ERC token called BUDL, BUIDL is the name of the token, which will be on the Ethereum blockchain, which currently has one holder and a $0 on the chain market capitalization, according to Etherscan. It says the website also indicated that the fund received a transfer of $100 million on March 4th. So this is the new financial order that BlackRock is helping to build out. And it starts small, so only the big boys will be able to get into this. But Ethereum all along was a banker's chain. And so they're using the ERC20 metrics to create a token that will be available to the special class, the uber wealthy will be able to get in on this at front. They're going to front run it, get in, build it up, build it out. Then they open up to the debt slaves to get in next, or transfer their old legacy financial structure portfolios onto the next. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. Here's another interesting headline. It says the era of tokenization, market outlook on a 24 trillion business opportunity. This is a business opportunity. And so it goes on to talk about the DL to distributed ledger technology, whatever. And then it says projection of tokenized assets from 2019 to 2027. And look who's brought to us by research and surveys from institutes such as the World Economic Forum, Deloitte, and McKinsey project that up to 10% of the global domestic product will be stored and transacted with the help of blockchain technology. So whenever you see the World Economic Forum, Deloitte, and McKinsey, all these, how would I put them? Unique institutions that are also behind the restructuring of our entire world, talk about their excitement of what's coming between 2025 and 2027. That lets me know that they are not reacting to the transformation in the crypto asset community space. They were preactive. They were working towards this behind the scenes. This didn't catch them by surprise. This is what they wanted. And so here it goes on to give you this visual aid here. But this is what they are projecting. This is what Klaus Schwab and his analysts and all the young world leaders are also envisioning with the private-public partnership behind all the Wall Street banks and everybody in the financial sector. This is what excites them. It says project tokenized market volume until 2027. And so I'm not able to zoom in here, but you can see the trajectory of this chart here, and I'll read into a little bit of it. But here we have, let me see. Let me see if I can zoom in. I can't. But as you can see here, this is what they're forecasting up until 2027. So by 2027, everything will be ready. So you have, let me see here, listed equity. You have unlisted equity. So the dark blue and the dark blue. So listed equity, unlisted equity. You have other equity in the green. You have bonds, which are in the purple, which are scattered in real small down here. Bonds are real small here. You got home equity, which is the lighter blue down up in this range here. And you have other financial assets, other tokenized assets. So this is what they're forecasting will exist on a ledger. And according to Larry Fink, it was one ledger. Who owns that ledger? Who has the private keys to that ledger? Will it be open source? I doubt it. Will it be something public where you can see it? Probably not. And so it goes on to just list, more of the exciting things that they're working towards behind the screen, behind the scenes. So you know what they have in store is what I'm getting at. Okay, keep it moving. Let me get rid of a couple windows here. Let me know in the chat what you guys are thinking about all this. This is just a transformation into the new financial order that they're working towards. Shouldn't be any surprises. All right, so real quick here, just on the political front, something that really caught my attention. You may or may not saw about this, but the Irish Prime Minister a couple days ago was in the White House, basically talking with Biden, and he either got out of script or was speaking on behalf of himself and not his puppet masters. And so we all saw the clips that says Irish Prime Minister Leo speaks up in support of Palestine and U.S. President Joe Biden's presence. So this is him basically saying that Ireland and everything that they resonate with Palestinians. They see their pain and they know their pain. They feel their pain. They themselves were similar, referring to Ireland and their relationships with the UK and the British Crown throughout the years, whatever. So the Prime Minister was relating with Palestinian pain, and all of a sudden now he's resigning. He's now unemployed. So something happened between him being truthful and then him being canceled. Ireland's Prime Minister, Leo, resigns as of this morning. So, he should have either stuck to the script or he didn't get the memo basically saying that you got to play along with all the agendas or you're going to lose your job. So I guess his job wasn't important to him. But so if this is the case, I'm just as pure speculation. If this is the case that he's resigning because he got out of pocket, then perhaps he's a man of character, decided to step up and let his voice be heard. But according to this here, a lot of people in Ireland are excited that he's gone because obviously he was a puppet in the first place. So he says, go woke, go broke. Says, didn't he say he stands with the Palestinians like yesterday? So a lot of people are like, kind of hitting the same thing. So, and on another front here, Brazil's president, man, is, under the radar as well. So Brazil's ex-president, Bolsonaro, is being indicted over alleged falsification of his own medical health status cards, his vaccination data. So basically it's saying that the former president was formally accused on Tuesday of falsifying his COVID-19 vaccination data, making the first indictment for the embattled far-right leader, with more allegations potentially in store. So basically it says this guy, federal police indictment released by the Supreme Court alleges that Bolsonaro and 16 others inserted false information to their public health database to make it appear as though the president and his 12-year-old daughter and several others had all taken a jab. So even the president knew he wasn't participating. And so if he stayed in line, didn't veer off the path of the world order's agenda, he wouldn't be under great attack, more than likely, and wouldn't be facing jail time or whatever punishments coming his way. So is Bolsonaro a genuine character who really cared about his country? You can kind of say he probably did, or he was smart enough to realize that he didn't want to participate in medical experimentation. So who knows? But anyway, on the last note here, this is the very last note. This is something that was shared based upon interviews from Ron Paul and General Flynn. And I have some I have some opinions and thoughts that is not favorable for these two gentlemen here. And so, I've always been, I question everything, believe nothing until I verify for myself type of person in this natural realm anyway. It says, within the last 48 hours, both Ron Paul and General Flynn have warned of a coming Black Swan event. Okay, no doubt it. And then I see people say, well, if they're telling us that a swan event is coming, then it's not a surprise. So it can't be really a black swan. So it can't be black if it's going to be foretold that something's coming. So you get my point here. So if we are told to anticipate something, then it's not a black swan event. Black swan events typically come out of nowhere. But if you're being told something is coming, you can prepare for it. So therefore, it's not a real event. It was already planned. It says these two men have been pretty accurate over the last decade. It might behoove us to listen. The enemy will not roll over and allow Trump to win. They have something planned. Okay, no doubt. Something is planned. We all see several events, pick your poison, whatever you want to look at, you can find something that will show that things won't be smooth. This remainder of this year won't be smooth. Okay, cool. So here we have Rand Paul on Tucker Carlson show. And he is basically saying that, he feels that something's coming, and he says, we should prepare for it with education, whatever, Black Swan event. He says Black Swan event. Then we have General Flynn also saying the same thing on another show. So here we have two former public servants. Rand Paul did 20 years, 30 years as a congressman. It had a lot of pushback against Bernanke, and he was very outspoken in things that related to stuff he's allowed to speak out. General Flynn, worked for the military industrial complex, military world order, took orders for the last 20, 30, 40 years of his career. He knows the ins and outs of how the system runs. And now all of a sudden he's a libertarian out here for freedom, whatever. So these two gentlemen here, they were a part of the establishment in reference to them being public officials that were on the cut as congressmen and in the military service for all their career. And now that they're out of that particular positions, they are free speaking on events of what's coming. But then again, they're telling us what we already know. Neither one of these two gentlemen are saying anything new and relevant to who's behind all of this activity that's causing the world so much pain. So while their efforts appear to be pro, like conservative, for the people, take back our liberties, let's, in the deep state type of talk, they have boundaries that they can't cross. And those boundaries is simply speaking specific details and names of people and or entities that they know, because being in their positions for their entire career, they know down to the exact date and time of which oligarchy family, which institution, and the boards of all these institutions that are responsible for all the chaos that we're witnessing. But they will never, ever, ever say a single name outside of what's already been publicly known. They'll say words deep state, the establishment, DC, they lump everybody together. They'll never say Bilderbergs, Rothschilds, Klaus Schwab, um, Council of Foreign Relations. They'll never say things like that and then give categories, names, and numbers, and email addresses, stuff that would allow the people to really be able to take action to resist by also giving ammunition for commentators, analysts on the market, alternative media people to verbally call out these people's names, tag it, tagging it on social media, allowing names to trend that highlights specific people so that they themselves can get public shame from their actions, and the people can wake up and realize who they are. That's what we won't hear from those guys. So while their efforts look like they are making a difference, they could be doing it just to clear their own conscience because they were a part of this establishment. They know the details for the last 30, 40 years, and they made successful careers. They're all getting good pensions off of them playing their part, being allowed to say and do certain things, but knowing that they themselves, they have limits to what they can say because they know not to get out of line as well. So that's just my 2 cents on the matter, man. But as always, to be expected. Anyway, man, this is a good back and forth. Almost 50 minutes, man, of ranting this morning. Forgive me for ranting so much, but hopefully out of all these rants, some truth got out of there. So you guys realize that, there's a lot going on. I encourage you, please share this so people can find out what's going on, because if they don't, they won't know any of the things I talked about prior to, and or have opportunity and know the importance of getting access to some of the resources in the description to help slow down. We can't stop none of this. We can slow it down and be more of the resistance to call out and to shine light on the enemy's plans, giving people a chance to make some choices. That's what it boils down to, making choices. We can't stop none of this monetarily, physically, spiritually, but we got choices. The first choice and first and foremost choice is your spiritual choice. Who's your Lord and Savior? And if it's not Jesus Christ, then that comes with consequences. What's your preferred method of preserving your capital? If you think cryptos and digits going to be it, you got another thing coming. Politically, nobody in DC, I don't care who they are, can stop what's coming, which is led by the principalities and powers. Not one man in the flesh can stop what's coming or what has to come. You got a thing coming. No presidential election, no vote on a card with a software called Dominion Software. Right now, type in Dominion Software on Twitter. You'll get a whole list of activities taking place as to how people logging in from Slovenia, Pakistan, and they got people changing votes. Got another thing coming. Anyway, that's all I'm going to rant today, man. Hope you guys have fun. Be blessed, be safe. Catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.